Hello, everybody. Chris Rice Killer T here for Pax Online East 2021, and we're checking out. I hope I pronounced this correctly. Reina and Jericho. We have one of the developers here. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name's Dave. I started a company called Reclamation Games a little while ago, and wanted to make a story-driven metroidvania. So that's what we're doing.
Okay, and tell us a little bit about the plot of Reina and Jericho and what's the worlds like in the game.
What's the world like?
Yeah.
Similar to real life, I always use the example of if you think about the Indiana Jones movies, if you're familiar with them, it's
Mhm.
pretty much real life. But if you drink from the Holy Grail, you'll live forever. Or if you open the Ark of the Covenant, your face melts. Like it's there's these special things in the world of Indiana Jones that have these special properties that are ascribed to them. It's the same thing in Reina and Jericho, where it's pretty normal, except every once in a while there's a special thing and it lets you do, you know, something special with it. So in the case of Raina, she has gotten a necklace that lets her revisit her recent past. And so a guy named Jericho is abducted in front of her. The last thing he does is give this to her. She doesn't know why. She doesn't know what's going on, and that is actually her utter lack of knowledge of the plot of the game is a major sticking point, and unraveling it is a major thing that the player and Rainer are going to have to do to figure out what's going on. Um, and it'll take a little bit of exploring, both literally and in terms of the plot.
Right, and I'm noticing in some of the trailers, she's using a sword as a main weaponry as well. Are there any kind of different weapons or artifacts you can acquire as well?
Yeah, so there's a ton of artifacts. I'm not going to tell you all of them, but the sword is sort of the main one. That's all of her combat is through that. Originally, we toyed with giving her other options, but I like the sword because it forces her to approach danger. One of the major problems in the game is that a lot of her opponents have things like guns, which are very good at picking off someone who is out of reach. And so she's constantly, and the player's faced with this challenge of constantly having to find ways to charge in. And at first, you don't have a ton you can do, but even by the end of the demo, which goes through just the tutorial area of the game, you get artifacts to um, enhance your jumping power, which superficially just gives you more height, but it also gives you access to an aerial dodge, similar to something like that's in Smash Bros. Games. Um, you get the dash scarf, which lets you really rapidly close distance, and that completely transforms the game because now all of a sudden, Rain is just rapidly bouncing around the screen, and um, dealing with one target is no longer a major issue. And now the problem becomes, okay, well, be careful that you don't let yourself get surrounded now that you can zip around so quickly.
Okay, that's pretty cool. And I noticed that you also have a couple of different gameplay modes for speed running and randomization. Do you mind telling us a
Yeah.
little bit about that?
Yeah, so speedrun mode, I'm hoping to get into the demo before PAX starts in a couple days. So I was working on it right before this, and I'm going to be working on it right after. But we'd like to get a demo of it into the demo. But basically, the normal game mode is a story-driven Metroidvania. So your typical Metroidvania experience where you're running around, getting lost, finding blocked doors or other inaccessible areas, and then later on finding things that let you get past them, and then you sort of remember and backtrack. That's layer one. And through that, we have a story that ties into those themes and is really cool. But that's not the only way that people like to game. And for something like streamers or whatever, they're really into randomizers. Well, the people who are really into randomizers are really into them. I always find that people are sort of split where they know what they are and love them or have never heard of them. But yeah, the other two game mode, speed mode takes out all the cutscenes. It refines a whole bunch of stuff and just lets you go straight line shot through the game as rapidly as possible with as few obstacles taken out of it. It even does a couple things like it just gives Reign of the Sword right off the bat. It's what if you started this game with a sword? Well, that kind of changes things. It's a lot harder for her to get captured right at the start. Um, And then the randomizer mode, that's not going to be available at launch when we launch later this year, but it is planned. Our whole big plan is to have one big major update, and that's going to bring in the randomizer. And it is being coded with that in mind. But randomizers, as you might expect, require a certain type of extensive testing that we just don't have time to cram in right now. But that is going to scramble the items in the game while still ensuring that it can be completed. So you kind of get that novel exploration experience and it keeps things fresh. You'd be able to provide a seed so that you and someone else could race if you wanted to see who can beat it faster with this different set of random factors. And not all randomizers feature this, but there will be flags that can be set. So maybe you want to scramble the layout. Okay, well then you check the box that lets you scramble the layout. Okay, I don't want to do that. I just want to shift up the items, or I just want to, randomize some stats or things like that. All of those will be flags that can be set. So it should be pretty cool.
Oh, that's pretty cool. I'm noticing in the press release that it's coming to like PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PC, and the Nintendo Switch. I kind of noticed that the PS4 and the Xbox One series of console have been left out. Was there like some sort of technical issues that prevent them from being on those platforms?
So there's no technical issue. There is a budgetary one. So I
Uh,
mentioned that we want to have one major update, and so the plan is we're going to release the game, get it on our target platforms, and then roll it onto PS4. Roll it onto so it's on everything basically. PS4, Xbox One. We have all the other major consoles at that point, and then we hopefully get some language localization in there as well, and then plug the randomizer. That's the plan for the second big update that'll come.
Right. So, speaking of platform, obviously the Nintendo Switch is like basically a much different beast compared to the PS5, the Xbox Series, and the PC. What kind of challenges were there to make sure that the game was running perfectly on said Switch?
So we didn't have that much trouble. We have a couple advantages. One is because it's a Metroidvania and it's in the 2D side scrolling style, even though the game is in 3D. So I guess some people would call that 2.5D. Um, Everything's constrained to a room, right? We don't have to
Right.
load the entire game world. There's only a couple rooms that need to be loaded at once. So we can really limit what has to be done by the system. The other catch is the Nintendo Switch is still pretty powerful. There are things it's good at, and they overlap really nicely with what you need to have a video game console do. So there are some things like blurring and all that kind of give it a hard time, and like really large textures can give it a hard time, but by and large it's still pretty powerful, so it hasn't been too bad. And I mean, part of it's also right out of the gate we knew we wanted it to be on Switch, so we didn't we kept that in mind at every step of the way.
Okay. Well, that's pretty cool because like I'm glad it hasn't been too much of a difficult thing for you. When can we expect Rena and Jericho to release?
Yeah, we're looking at Q4.
Okay.
I'll let you in on a little secret, which you can tell other people, but we had a window that we were watching and we were just thinking, all right, as long as like none of these other major Metroidvanias come, that's going to be our one. And then Nintendo kind of dropped an important Metroidvania game.
Oh
And we're
yeah.
like, all right, well, we probably shouldn't release on the same day as Dread. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, we backed off a little bit on that one. Yeah,
Yeah, not a bad idea in all
yeah,
things considered.
yeah.
Well, I would like to thank you for your time, and I'm looking forward to checking out the demo later this week, and hopefully we can talk again later on about this game some more.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Thanks so much for your time.
No problem, and keep it right here, folks, for more PAX Online East coverage.